Hello, good evening. The government has lowered its housing supply target in the coming decade to 450,000 units. The decision comes as authorities reviewed the latest long-term housing strategy annual progress report today. Here's Sharon Tang with our top story.
Make a wish for another 10 years. The government aims to provide 450,000 units over the next decade, 10,000 fewer than last year's goal. It explains this is mainly due to the reduction in the net increase in the number of households. Meanwhile, the split between public and private housing has been increased to 70 to 30. That means there will be 315,000 public housing units and 135,000 private homes in the years to come. Subsidized sale flats are expected to rise up to 95,000. But given the government has only identified enough land to build 248,000 public housing units by 2029, it remains to be seen whether it will meet its 10-year target of 315,000 public flats. The city's housing chief stressed his team is on the case.
We can speed up the process, like the statutory zoning, planning, and associated statutory processes, and also the construction processes, so that we could make those public housing available more speedily. And on top of that, we are also having the opportunity of having new development areas in a new territory.
A lawmaker doubts if the targets can meet demand.
I think that that is no use changing the ratio only. If we just change the ratio, but the real supply of the land is not increasing, so the flat supply cannot be increased.
Earlier this morning, crowds were seen at a centre bidding for home ownership scheme flats in Chengsha Wan, a project aimed at public housing tenants who meet eligibility requirements. Some interested applicants say they want to try their luck in the hope of moving into a bigger flat. The Housing Authority will start accepting applications on the 28th this month. Ballots are set to be held in February. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Secretary for Justice Theresa Jiang will be spared prosecution for unauthorized building works at her home in Tuen Mun. But her husband, Otto Poon, is less fortunate. He'll be prosecuted for a pool at his house next door. In a statement, the Director of Public Prosecutions, David Leung, said the decision came after seeking legal advice. Experts say there is sufficient evidence to secure a conviction against Jiang.
The High Court rejected the appeals of 4 people who attacked ousted opposition lawmaker Nathan Law last year. All of them were sent to jail immediately to serve their 3-month sentences. 3 of them were found guilty of common assault and taking part in an unlawful assembly. 1 was convicted of taking part in an unlawful assembly. It happened back in January last year after attending a political forum in Taipei. Law was surrounded by protesters upon arrival. The 4 appellants said Law's video evidence did not show the assaulting scene.
None of the steel bars tested so far at Hong Hom Station meet the government's safety standards. That's amid the ongoing investigation into reports of substandard work there. Christy Lung with details.
2 more connections between rebars and couplers have been found to be problematic. This as the ongoing random sampling checks continue as the Hong Hom Station extension of the Sha Tin to Central Link. The checks involve cracking open slabs at 2 platforms. As the Transport and Housing Bureau revealed, 1 bar was only screwed into a coupler by about 6 mm, while another one was only embedded around 31 mm. That's well below the minimum standard of 40 mm. Similar problems were also revealed yesterday after the first 3 bars were tested, meaning that none of the bars tested so far meets the government's minimum standards. All of the 5 problematic spots selected randomly are located at Area B of the East-West Line platform. One lawmaker said demolishing the platform would be inevitable if large numbers of couplers and rebars are not fitted properly.
Now, the experts that I've talked to said if the actual resulting ratio is about 30 or 40%, all right, they would have to demolish the whole platform. You may have to knock off the cement, change the coupler for it to be done properly. Now, that takes a long time. Below that, there is still ways to strengthen the platform and save it.
Still, an engineer says it is too early to consider whether to demolish the entire platform.
We need to complete the first one, open up inspection, and then we can to do some analysis to see what is the degree of the defect. If it's not very serious, probably we only need a minor strengthening work, and then can solve the problem.
Transport Secretary Frank Chen says more than 168 sports and platforms will be tested, and the results will be made known to the public. Chris Dillon, TVB News.
US officials are accusing two alleged Chinese hackers of carrying out an extensive campaign of cyber espionage on behalf of Beijing's main intelligence agency. They say the hackers stole trade secrets and other information from government agencies and major corporations from at least a dozen countries. Alan Buckner reports.
The indictment by the U.S. Justice Department is the latest in a series of criminal cases targeting Chinese cyber espionage.
More than 90% of the department's cases alleging economic espionage over the past 7 years involve China. More than 2/3 of the department's cases involving thefts of trade secrets are connected to China. It is unacceptable that we continue to uncover cybercrime committed by China against America and other nations.
The alleged hackers are accused of breaching computer networks beginning as early as 2006 in a range of industries, including aviation, finance, biotechnology, satellites, and pharmaceuticals.
No country poses a broader, more severe, long-term threat to our nation's economy and cyber infrastructure than China. China's goal, simply put, is to replace the U.S. as the world's leading superpower, and they're using illegal methods to get there.
Prosecutors identified two alleged hackers from a group it calls APT-10, or Stone Panda, and say they work for the Chinese intelligence agency, the Ministry of State Security. Rosenstein accused China of reneging on a 2015 international agreement not to seek a competitive advantage through the theft of state secrets and intellectual property. Beijing reacted angrily, calling the accusations fabricated and baseless. A statement from Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said they were slanderous and fabricated out of thin air. She accused the U.S. of hypocrisy, saying it's an open secret that the U.S. conducts large-scale cyber theft and listens in on foreign governments and individuals. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
Still to come on tonight's news. Mass culling a possibility if African swine fever hits Hong Kong. New anti-terror squad to protect cities' railways put through their paces. And London's Gatwick Airport reopens after 36 hours of drone chaos.
Welcome back to TVB News. Local pig farmers are urging the government to step up measures given the African swine fever outbreak on the mainland. But a City University professor says people shouldn't worry about the outbreak posing a danger to public health. Haley Joe reports.
At a local pig farm, pigs are being disinfected, as well as trucks and boots worn by farmers. Hygiene measures are being stepped up after reports that the African swine fever outbreak reached Zhuhai, a city less than 60 kilometers away from Hong Kong. Still, veterinary epidemiologist Dirk Pfeiffer says you shouldn't be too worried.
This virus only affects pigs, okay, and only goes from pig to pig. I, as a scientist, I have to be very clear. It does not affect anything other than those pigs, okay? Definitely not humans. It's different from an avian influenza.
Pfeiffer says it mainly spreads by two ways in Asia, through infected pigs or feeding food waste with contaminated pork products to pigs. So in countries that produce lots of food waste, the virus spreads faster.
One important mechanism for transmitting the disease is actually through food waste. Here in Hong Kong, it's still being done, but it will be stopped. The government actually will prohibit it from the beginning of next year.
The professor stressed the main risk is on pork prices rather than public health, especially with the increasing demand leading up to Chinese New Year, and that's what the authorities should keep a close watch on. So far, 2/3 of China's provinces have been affected, and more than 90% of live pigs supplied in Hong Kong are imported from mainland. And they are sent to local slaughterhouses either in Shangshui or Chunwan. And that worries local pig farmers, including Lau Hon Kit. He urged the government to stop importing pigs from mainland until the epidemic fades out. The director of the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department says the government is considering separating local and mainland pigs. And if the virus reaches Hong Kong, there will be a mass cure of pigs to combat the virus. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
Hong Kong's police force has a new anti-terrorism team. As Kena Chu reports, the group is tasked with safeguarding the city's trains and stations.
Chaos and panic as armed terrorists hold passengers hostage. Police officers arrived soon after. One of the culprits was shot and handcuffed. These dramatic scenes were part of a tactical drill performed by the newly established Railway Response Team of the Hong Kong Police Force. In light of an increase in cases involving terrorist attacks on railways, the team was formed to set up local preventative measures.
The overall terrorist threat level against Hong Kong remains moderate. That is, there is a possibility of attack. We have the Regional Command and Coordination Center and other operations room to monitor events on a daily basis. If there is something major, we will activate our protocol and then coordinate different units to deal with the incident.
The team is comprised of 34 members, including an inspector, a station sergeant, 8 surgeons, and 24 police constables. With the help of specialist equipment, Leung says the team is confident it can do the job. Among other things such as pistols, submachine guns, batons, bulletproof vests, and gas masks, the armory also boasts a bulletproof helmet which comes with a night vision monocular. The full gear weighs about 35 pounds. Members of the Rail Response Team will begin patrolling full-time at high-risk and major interchange stations starting Sunday. Kena Chu, TVB News.
Overseas again, London's Gatwick Airport is back in operation after being shut down for some 36 hours because of drones flying in its airspace. British Prime Minister Theresa May aims to tighten UK laws covering drones because of the incident.
We've already passed legislation in relation to the use of drones, so it is now, as has been made clear, the activity we've seen is illegal, and those who are caught endangering aircraft can face up to 5 years in prison, and that's legislation that we've already introduced, and actually we're consulting on further aspects of this, including further police powers.
The drone activity disrupted the flight plans of more than 100,000 travellers ahead of the Christmas holidays. Gatwick said more than 700 planes are due to take off today, but it added there will be delays and cancellations. Authorities deployed unidentified military technology to guard the airport against drones. The motivation of the drone operator or operators remains a mystery, but police don't suspect it was terror-related.
Japanese prosecutors have added a new allegation of breach of trust against former Nissan chairman Carlos Ghosn. The new charge dashes any hope Ghosn has of getting out on bail before Christmas. Yesterday, a Tokyo court unexpectedly rejected the prosecutor's request to extend his detention. Ghosn, along with former Nissan executive Greg Kelly, were arrested on November 19th for allegedly underreporting Ghosn's income by $44 million between 2011 and 2015. The new charge alleges that in 2008, Ghosn transferred a $16 million personal investment loss to Nissan by manipulating an unspecified swap contract.
In the face of a US government shutdown, the House of Representatives approved funding for President Trump's wall. But Democrats insist Trump is playing dirty to get his way.
The President of the United States prefers to shut government down and will resist any opportunity to keep government open. Again, we are completely ready, as we have been for a while, with bipartisan, bicameral legislation.
President Trump is plunging the country into chaos. The stock market's down another 500 points. And now, President Trump is throwing a temper tantrum and creating the Trump shutdown of the government.
And that's